Um, I want to say thank you for being here. I want to say that when I watch that video, I see it and I'm like, wow, what a glamorous life. And then there's the hesitancy to there's the tendency to be like, oh, I better play it down. I don't want people to think I live this like super fabulous, glamorous life. And I'm like, no, you know what? That would be wrong. And that would be discrediting this amazing life that I have gotten to live. And so I'm just going to be blunt with it. And it's going to sound cocky and arrogant, but I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm incredibly grateful for the amazing, fantastic life that I've gotten to live. And being here where it all began, it just brings a lot of emotions to the surface because I know the journey and the hard work that went into achieving the life that my wife and I and our kids get to enjoy together. And I just think it's really cool. I'm so grateful that you're here because that's how it started for me. It meant like if there was a special event going on campus, I was there. If there was a networking opportunity, I was there. If there was a Q&A, I was there. I was sitting in the front and I was asking all the questions. I was doing everything I could to achieve this lifestyle for my family and I. And so let's start it from the beginning. Oh, P.S. If you are in Paul Wilson's class, there's a phrase that is bucket list. And if you know that phrase, you now get attendance, which means you can now leave if you don't want to be here. Okay, that's the phrase. All right, let's start this story from when I was actually at BYU Provo, and I wanted to create a iPhone app. I'm pretty old. I went on my mission, and I got home in 2009. And when I got home, my buddy showed me something called an iPhone, and I had never seen it before. I'd never seen a smartphone before. And he showed me this new iPhone that came out while we were on our missions, and he's like, check it out. And he showed me a Fergie music video called Fergalicious, and I was like, oh my gosh, this device is awesome, but this video's of the devil. I can't believe you showed me this. This is terrible. But mind blown by this new technology. And so I go out, I made the mistake, and I bought a smartphone that was an Android, my bad. But that Android came with a pamphlet that had QR codes saying, if you want to download this app, scan this QR code. And I was like, how does that work? I have a digital phone, I have a magazine, how is that going to happen? And I hovered my Android device over the magazine and went beep, and that app was now transported magically, technology, into my phone. And I thought it was so cool, and I was like, holy cow, I want to design apps. I want to build an app, like, wow, what could I do with it? So in the back of my journal, I made a long list of ideas of all the different apps that I wanted to build, but I didn't know how to do that. So I started teaching myself how to design and build an app. I want to know those skills, but I don't think I'm good enough to like work on any of my cool ideas, so I'm just going to start with a terrible idea. What if I built a QR code scanner, a barcode scanner for the iPhone? So I teamed up with some buddies, and we built one called Scan. And that was one of the more brilliant things we did. Is at the time, there were other QR code or barcode scanners in the App Store, but they were called Red Laser, Bacado, weird names. I don't know why they chose them. Nobody called theirs Scan, so we named ours Scan. And if you went into the App Store and you searched barcode, QR code, or Scan, we showed up first. And that little genius move got our tiny little app made in Provo, Utah, at BYU, 100 million downloads in a year. So we made 100 million downloads in 1 year. And guess how much money that made us? $0, because it was a free app. But it definitely got like our name out there. And I went on the TV show Shark Tank. Don't Google it, don't watch it. It did not end well. This was the apartment we were living in there in Provo. And I remember there was one Sunday morning that changed my life forever because I got this email on my phone. And it says, let's see, hi Garrett, really liking the Scan app, not sure where you were based, but would love to talk and meet at your convenience. Sincerely, Evan Spiegel. Evan Spiegel, the founder and CEO of Snapchat. CEOs at that level don't send emails like this just because. He's not just a friendly guy. I can tell you, I've met him. He's not a very friendly guy. But he did not just send that email just because. I knew there was something behind this. And so first I Googled it being like, are you sure this is his real email? Did all the research I could. It was his real email. So I responded to him right away and said, thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you. Would love to meet someday. Would be an honor. And he responds and says, sure, let me know the next time you're in LA. This is a Sunday in Provo, Utah. And he says, let me know the next time you're in LA. I had no plans to go to LA. Actually, later that week, me and my very pregnant wife,
We were going to BYU Hawaii.
we were moving to BYU, Hawaii. So,
Garrett was going to play on the BYU Hawaii soccer team.
and you were how pregnant?
I was 8 months pregnant. I was super pregnant.
Yeah, she looked 10 months pregnant. No, she looked 8 months pregnant, but the baby was coming and we were moving that week to BYU, Hawaii. Okay? So he says, let me know the next time you're going to be in LA. So I lied to him and I responded saying, oh my goodness, I'm going to be in LA this week. I would love to get lunch with you. And he's like, crazy coincidence. I was like, right? And so we went and got lunch on Tuesday. I think I flew out right then. These are all pictures. These are all pictures of just from my journal that we scrapped together today. I'm a mad journal keeper. This was me in the airport in LA on my way to go meet with Evan Spiegel of Snapchat. Earlier that day, I received this text message from the head coach of BYU Hawaii soccer. He's the reason why I was coming out to BYU Hawaii. I had been playing in Provo and playing on the soccer team there. And he's like, if you can get accepted to BYU Hawaii, I can get you on the soccer team. My grades were not fantastic, so it was kind of difficult. But this was the coach saying, guess what? You're in. So things were looking good. I'm ready to go to BYU Hawaii, but first let me take this crazy stop to LA to see what this kind of random email was about from Snapchat. So this was my team. See, Romy and Colby were both in your class, right? Yeah. Here at BYU Hawaii. And then here's a picture I took the day I met with Evan, the CEO of Snapchat. So their offices at the time were in Venice, California, there in LA, right along the beach, okay? I show up about lunchtime. He comes out. Evan Spiegel's a young guy. At this time, I'm 27, 28, and he's 24, I think. And he's already a self-made billionaire based on Snapchat. And he comes walking out of the office and is like, hey, let's go for a walk. So we just start walking along the beach there, Venice Boulevard. And he's just asking me about my life, about the app we built, different questions about QR codes and their capabilities. And I am just flexing as hard as I can, showing him all my knowledge I can about the interesting fact of barcodes. And then I told him, but you know what? If I were to do it over and I had an app like Snapchat with your reach, this is how I would do it. So in the back of my mind, I had this hope. What if Evan of Snapchat wants to buy my app, wants to buy my company? But I didn't say that. You know how if like you're dating, you didn't tell the girl on day one you want to get married, but you know, right? And so I knew my goals, I knew my intentions, but I wasn't gonna blow it. So I'm just telling him, this is what I would do. And I'm telling him all my trade secrets. Like I'm just risking it all, putting it all out there, hoping that he'll be impressed by what I have to offer. And this walk maybe took about an hour along the beach and then ended with him saying, would you ever consider selling your app and joining Snapchat? Or I think he didn't even say that. He said, would you ever consider selling your app? And I lied to him again, because I thought about that every day. And I told him, I said, you know, I never thought of that, but if I ever did, I would want it to be to a company like Snapchat. It's not like you tell the girl, yeah, I think about you every day that I want to marry you. He's like, you know what? I'd consider it, okay? So I told him if I did, I would want it to be like a company like Snapchat. So he's like, let's go into my office. We walk into his office right there, and this lawyer named Steve is in his business outfit, like literally in a suit. I'm very casual. You saw what I was wearing. Evan's very casual kid. This guy was like, nice suit and tie, gets up. He's the lawyer. He shakes my hand and says, congratulations. Have you guys agreed on a price? And I was like, whoa. And Evan looks at me and goes, like, it was all happening this quick. He goes, how long have you worked on your company? I said, 3 years. He goes, did you raise money? I go, yeah, we raised $10 million in a Series A of funding. How about $40 million? And at that point, had you asked me going into this meeting, like, what's your bottom and what's your like dream goal? I think my bottom probably would have been 12 million. That was enough to put some good money in my pocket. And then my dream, like think big, dream big, probably would have been 20 million. He just drops it right there, then and there, looks me in the eyes and says, how about 40 million? And I think my face was like this, but inside I was, right? So I poker faced it. I was like, I think that might work. I'm new to this. I think I got to talk to some people. You can call my mom. Just kidding, I did not call my mom. I said, how long does something like this usually work? And he said, well, if this were Facebook, it would take months, but I want to have this done by the weekend. It's like, all right, great. You know, he's like, no, like, think about it. Take your time. Call me by tonight. Oh, thank you for giving me much time. I'll call you by tonight. So I leave that office. Let's see what's next in the journal. Oh yeah, that's how I was feeling at the airport. These are lots of phone calls. Man, this is actually bringing some PTSD back. Okay, let's pause there for a second. I leave. My little sister picks me up. She drives me to the airport because she lived in LA. And I call up my co-founder. I was like, dude, this was crazy. This is what happened. My sister's sitting next to me. And my co-founder on the phone is like, well, did he say a price? And I was like, yeah. And my sister kind of can hear bits and pieces of this conversation. And I just remember being like, 40 million. And my sister's like, huh? And I'm trying to like shield this conversation with her, but at the same time, I got bigger fish to fry right now. So call him and he's like, well, what do we do? I think you should call our lawyer. I call our lawyer and he said, unfortunately, I also represent Snapchat, so I can't represent you in this process. I'm gonna put you in contact with someone else. His name is Larry Chu. This is what he does. He's the best of the best. I get on the phone call with Larry Chu and I tell him the scenario and he goes, congratulations. I was like, well, it's not done yet. And he's like, I've done enough of these, like, congratulations. That had me feeling pretty good. But then he said, I need you to call Evan back and tell him that 40 million is not enough. You want 50. I'm pretty sure on the phone, right away I corrected him saying, my brother, 40 million is enough. We're good. And he's like, no, believe me, like I've done this before. Have you done this? No, never. So trust me on this. He didn't start with his highest offer. Call him back, say, I checked the cap tables. 50 million is the lowest we can do this for. All right, and I remember I was even like, can you call him? Can you do this? And he was like, don't worry, this is the beginning of a long journey. You're gonna have a lot of hard conversations. This is the first one, call him. All right, so I'm now at LAX. Was I flying home to you or were we meeting in Hawaii?
We're meeting in Hawaii.
Props, Jess. So Jess moved us and our one child, she's very pregnant, and we were gonna meet in Hawaii. So I was flying to Hawaii. I'm at the airport, like my plane is leaving in 15 minutes. I call Evan and I say, thank you so much for your offer. I can't do less than 50 million. And he says, that's unfortunate, good luck, and hangs up. All the PTSD. So I call back the lawyer and I was like, you greedy fool. 40 million was more than enough and you had to ask for 50. We were fine. And he's like, cool, chill. He's gonna call you back. Give him a few minutes, he's gonna call you back. And if he doesn't call you back, then we'll figure out a new game plan. I've got 15 minutes on my plane leaves. Maybe now it's like 10 minutes. I was stressing. I'm now sitting in my seat waiting for my flight to leave. And thank goodness, Evan Spiegel calls me back. Oh gosh, this was terrible. He calls me back and is like, look, I don't know if we can do 50, but we should have this, let's chat. Enjoy your flight, call me when you get there. So I land in Hawaii. We move into our TVA place. It was not nice. And Jessica was very pregnant and very hot. And I was gonna join the soccer team. So I remember this picture Jess took because my life during my stint here, I was gonna play one full season here at BYU Hawaii. And Evan at Snapchat knew that was part of the negotiations. I would finish my senior season here in Hawaii and then go join Snapchat. Well, he wanted it done by the weekend. So that week was just hellish of me sprinting from TVA to the soccer field, having practice. But even then, I remember being on the negotiation phone calls and I couldn't be like, sorry guys, I've got soccer practice. So I blamed it on my pregnant wife and said, hey, we've got a doctor's appointment. I'm going to be gone for like 2 hours. Bam, I would run and I would do soccer practice and then I would run back and hop back on the phone calls. I was on phone calls like all day and night. This is us trying to like enjoy Hawaii. I think that's Waimea Bay. And I was just on the phone the entire time going through these negotiations. So I didn't want to jinx it. And it was also just like such a crazy situation. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. My co-founder knew, Jessica knew, my soccer teammates didn't know, and this coach didn't know. I remember it was a hard, difficult, like lonely craziness of a week. And I remember being in Walmart closer to the airport. I think we had maybe picked up a teammate or something, and then we stopped in at Walmart. And as I was that entire week, I'm on the phone and I'm kind of pacing. And on that phone call, the CEO, Evan, he says, at this point, the negotiation had reached 44 million. They were feeling good. I was feeling good. It was basically a done deal at $44 million. And Evan says, okay, how many more months until your soccer season is over? And I said, 3 months, and then I'm coming right away to LA to join you at Snapchat. And he's like, I don't want to wait that long. I'll give you the 44 million plus $10 million cash, like right away, if you quit soccer and come join me tomorrow. And I said no. And if I were to explain it, it wasn't hard. Like, it sounds crazy and it kind of makes me happy to hear all like the oohs and ahs in here. It wasn't that crazy for me at this point. Like, come on guys, you already got 44 million. Like, you need 10 more million. And I just knew, like, already in my heart what I value, and I have the rest of my life to work hard and make money. But all that money in the world isn't going to buy my youth back. It's not going to buy my senior season of soccer back. I'm not good enough to go pro. This is where it stops for me, right? And truly, it wasn't a hard decision for me to say no to him. And he's like, I respect it. All right, bye. And he hangs up. I call my co-founder, his name is Kirk, and he and I are just brothers and best friends. And I was like, Kirk, you want to hear about this crazy scenario? Evan called me. He offered us $10 million more if I would quit soccer tomorrow. Oh, crazy. What did you tell him? I told him no. And he was like, Garrett, I'm not mad at you because I know how your heart works, but that's not all your money. And I was like, oh, what have I done? And immediately hit me like, shoot, I was definitely just thinking about myself when I made that decision. I'll fix it. I'll fix it right away. I know what I've done. I'm going to fix this. So I call Evan back and I've lied to him. What's this now? The third lie I told Evan. And I said, Evan, I'm so sorry. As soon as I hung up, I realized I'm just so excited to join Snapchat. If that offer is still on the table, I will quit soccer and I'll come join you at Snapchat this week. And he's like, deal. Solid. Colby, he was on the soccer team and in this class once upon a time, founder of Thread Wallets. He said he saw me in the aisleway. And he literally saw me just like sink in. And it sounds like crazy. Like, dude, you're talking about $44 million, $54 million. Like, what do you have to be sad about? And it's not sadness, but the best way I could explain it is just like, for the majority of my life, I lived with ultimate freedom. And for the first time ever, I felt like, it literally felt like clamps on my heart. Like someone had taken something that was so near and dear to me and they took it from me for money that I didn't care about. And it was just crazy to me that Colby, like from far away, like could like see it. And he comes up to me and he's like, what happened? And I was like, I can't really talk about it. And he just like put his arm around me. That was that. So, I had been in BYU, at BYU Hawaii a week. I think it was like still like preseason soccer, so I don't think classes. I never made it to your class. I'm sorry, not a single time. So I was registered at BYU Hawaii for a total of 6 days. I never made it to a class, and the day before the season started, after that whole Walmart incident, we went to like a party at the coach's house to like initiation, whatever. And I went up to the coach, who's a good friend of mine, and I was like, "Sorry, I gotta quit." And it really hurt my heart that I was like, I can't really explain to you why. You just got to trust me. Um, yeah, he accepted it, and I quit, and we moved to LA the very next week, and I joined Snapchat. Um, there's lovely Jessica, pregnant with our second, and this is, it says Illuminati. Let me explain. Um, when we sold my company named Scan, not Illuminati, when we sold my company Scan to Snapchat, Snapchat required us to rename the company so that it would be perfectly confidential. Like, for example, Apple did not invent Siri. Hey Siri, Apple did not invent that. Siri did. And then Apple confidentially acquired it and then made the world think that like they created it. So Snapchat wanted to take our scanning and be able to scan QR codes, barcodes, snap codes, faces, all the things, but they wanted to take the credit more or less. And so it was going to be completely confidential. So they said, we need you to change the name of your company. It could be Project X, whatever you want. And so if you're not familiar with the term of Illuminati, it's basically selling your soul to the devil for the greater good of like money and fame and stuff like that. Well, I sold my soul for money, so we named the company Illuminati. So if you were to look at, but they said no one will ever see this, don't worry. And I was like, good, because we're naming it Illuminati. And they're like, all right. So they did it. They named my company, renamed my company Illuminati so it could sell it to Snapchat. That's all fine and dandy until this story gets real crazy. So this is when we signed the papers for it. The acquisition was done. My co-founder Kirk said, check your bank account, do a little dance. We did. And then we joined Snapchat. This was our office inside of Snapchat. Okay, all was going well and all was perfectly confidential. I mean, it was so confidential that even my own parents didn't know the madness that had just went down until there was a movie called The Interview where James Franco made fun of the head of North Korea. North Korea didn't love that. So North Korea decides to hack Sony and all of their emails. What does this have to do with us? Well, the head of Sony is on the board of Snapchat. So when Sony's emails got hacked by North Korea, all of the emails went out, including the CEO's approvals, because he sits on the board of Snapchat, acquiring our company. So journalists, these were like the famous email leaks, North Korea hacking Sony of 2014. Well, I go to work on December 16th, my wife's birthday, and it was like any other random day. And I'm sitting at my desk, and even the people around me, it was so confidential that even my coworkers at Snapchat thought I was just like a junior designer, even though my company had just been acquired for $54 million. They think I'm just like some poor junior designer. I should probably dress better. And all of a sudden, the doors open up, and this team of lawyers come and get me and pull me out and say, hey, something just happened, and things are going to get a little crazy for you. Because in those Sony email hacks, they found that Snapchat had confidentially acquired some random company called Illuminati, and that made the media even more weirded out. And then they did some more digging and find out the owner of Illuminati, the founder, is some Mormon kid named Garrett from BYU Provo. And it got real weird. But then they started to do the digging, and they found the email and all the details that Garrett G sells his company Scan for $54 million to Snapchat. And they said, you can either turn in your phone or turn off your phone. And I'm pretty sure the last thing I saw as I was turning it off was my mom's text me like, what the? My mom and my dad didn't know yet. So turn off the phone, and I leave because Jessica's picking me up from work. It was her birthday. And I get in the car, and if you know my wife, you know she's the actual most selfless human on the planet. And she's like, how was work? And I was like, it was crazy, but like, how's your birthday going? And I told her, she's like, she could tell something was up. And I'm like, no. If we get into my work stuff, It's going to be all about me tonight, and I want it to be about you. Jessica is Jessica. And she's like, no, tell me what's going on. And I let it all out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this craziness happened. And it just changed everything. It went from like I was at Snapchat 3 months when that happened. And if you would have asked me at that point, I think I was going to maybe try to be there for like 2 to 5 years, right? And Jessica enjoyed me being there because for those of you in here that are like entrepreneurial, you know it's like it's really hard to turn off. You're just basically 24/7 thinking about your ventures and like all the things. It's really, really hard. You're kind of like never working because you enjoy what you're doing, but you're also kind of always working because it's hard to turn off. And for the first time ever, Jessica got to experience 9 to 5 Garrett at Snapchat. And I didn't bring my my work home with me. And she liked it, but she could also tell like it's kind of dead inside. And the burning spirit of entrepreneurship that lived inside me was quickly fizzling. It was also the first time in my life where I'd ever like cared the opinion of someone else. Like Evan was my boss. That was a new feeling to me. And it was weird that I was trying to impress him and I was trying to like live my life in a way that like was impressive to him. And that was gross. Like I started to care less about my own self-confidence and self-worth level and cared what he thought about me. And it was just a gross new feeling to me. And so anyways, when this came out, the Sony leaks and everything came out, it just shook up my entire world. And thank goodness in a way that at least let me take a step back and think to myself, like, what do I want to do? And should I be here? So I remember telling Jess, like, I feel like I want to quit. I want to leave Snapchat. And when I spoke to the lawyer, Larry Chu, he said, remember all those very difficult conversations? It's thanks to those that you can quit. And all that you'll be leaving is your salary of, I think they were paying me like $280,000 as a salary and then $1 million a year bonus. So I'd be leaving that behind, but everything from the acquisition I got up front thanks to all those difficult conversations and a very fantastic lawyer. So it was at least an option. These are all like really, really big numbers that I'm spitting out, but I'm telling you, like, it all happened fast enough. And I think the positive of it happening fast is like, these weren't stupid numbers to me. Like, I understand what money is and what it can do and what it's worth. I understand that these are all like life-changing numbers. So much so that before just quitting, because I felt in my heart it was the right thing to do, that I needed to quit, I called up my brother, who is a high school teacher getting paid $35,000 a year to be a teacher in Utah. And I tell him the situation, and I tell him what they're paying me and what I'll lose and what I'll leave behind. And he's like, let me think about it. And he calls me back like an hour later, and he's like, honestly, like, I just can't even get over these numbers. I can't believe like that's your salary and that's your bonus. Like, I can't even like relate to that. And so I was like, all right, yeah, you're right. So I should stay, right? I should stay at Snapchat. Like the money is too much money. I should be grateful and just stay. And he's like, no. All of that said, knowing your heart and how it works, I think you need to leave. And he was right. It was the thing I needed to do. It was the right thing. And so, goodness, I remember scheduling the meeting to go meet with Evan. And I remember how scared I was. I got a random bloody nose like 10 minutes before the meeting. I mean, I was very nervous. And if you've heard stories of Steve Jobs where he's like absolutely brilliant, but kind of a tyrant, Evan Spiegel is just that way. And I go, and his office was this glass building or this glass room that you could see in and out of, but it was soundproof. And when I come in, he's yelling at this lady who is much older than him, and he's just like yelling at her, and she's in tears. And then she leaves and is like, hi, Garrett. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the day I'm going to try to quit. And I was so nervous. Like, I was so grateful that he had just changed my life and took a chance on me and acquired the company. And now I'm going to leave. Like, we had done the job that we were there to do. We had taken our technology and transitioned it into Snapchat. But like, in a big way, he had put me on this path to, become a leader at his company. And here I am, like, jumping ship. I was terrified. So I had rehearsed it in the bathroom, literally telling myself in the mirror, and even my older sister was like, you can't make it like a, hey, I'm considering leaving. It needs to be a definitive statement. Like, I am quitting. And like, don't even give him reasons why, just like, let it be known. So I think the exact line was, I've decided the best thing for me and my family is to quit Snapchat. And I just said it, and then I just braced for the storm that was surely going to come. And to my grand surprise, he's like, I get it. I respect it. I knew it was a long shot when I hired you. You and I are very similar, and I could never work for somebody else. Go be with your family. I support you. Steve, the lawyer in the suit, he'll get you situated. And I walk out of that office being like, did that really just happen? And then I was like, oh, good cop, bad cop. Steve's about to, put me through hell. But, that's when this happens. Steve sits me down and he says, hey, we're sorry to see you go. We want to take care of your family. We'll go ahead. We'll keep you on benefits. And I was like, hey, wait, hold up. I just want to be clear. Like, I'm quitting. There's a design meeting in like 10 minutes. I'm not going to it. And we're going to move back to Utah. Like, are we on the same page? And he's like, yeah, no, I get it. And we'll pay for your move. And if it's all right with you, we'd like to keep you on salary. Yeah, that was my reaction too. And so I leave that, and now I'm telling you, I literally was like, is there a sniper on the roof? Like, this is weird. What's gonna happen? And so I like calmly walk, and then I ran for a couple of blocks, and then I got to a safe place and called Jess. I was like, come pick me up. I don't feel safe. And we went to Disneyland that day. Do you remember? So I called the lawyer, and I'm like, yo, Larry Chu, what is up? And he's like, this is weird. Let me do some digging. And he's like, you know what? Me and my team talked about it, and we've realized as long as they're paying you salary, they own your creations, they own your mind. You can't go and work for Facebook or a competitor. So it's worth a company of that size, $1 billion tech company, multi-billion-dollar tech company, to pay you just to stay away from their competitors. That much money a year to do nothing. So he said, go be with your family. If in a few weeks from now it doesn't feel right to you, you could call him back and ask him to stop paying you. Sometimes I wish I had less morals and values, because it was like 3-4 days later. I don't know. It wasn't even a week. I called Snapchat and said, thank you so much. You've been so generous. Please stop paying me. Like, I feel like I've made the right decision. So they stopped paying me their salary. The final bit of this piece that I'll share is when it was the very next Sunday in LA, and we go to church, and who's at church? It's the soccer team and my coach. And they are on a away trip playing teams in California, and they went to church on Sunday, and there we are. And he's like, hey, I hope you're doing well. How's everything at Snapchat? And I was like, oh, things got crazy. I actually quit this week. And he's like, oh, what are you going to do next? It's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, the season doesn't start till next week. If you could make it back, we've got a spot on the team for you. So, I mean, you thought it was scary to go through those negotiations, or if you thought it was scary to quit to Evan Spiegel's face. No, it was scary to ask my wife if I could play some more soccer. So I go to Jess, and I said, what would you think if we went back and I finished my senior season of soccer? And she wasn't thrilled with the idea. It felt like a major step backwards, and I came prepared, guys. I said, let me do this. It's 3 months of our lives, and then you get to choose whatever we do next. And that's when she had a famous idea that was, what if we did a little bit of traveling? And a little bit of traveling, plus my entrepreneurial fire, created something called the Bucket List Family. So from this point on, thank you for listening to my story. I want to bring my lovely Jessica up with me, and from this point out, turn it into more of just a Q&A, and hear any questions you might have about the entrepreneurial crazy story I just shared with you, or flash forward to where we are today, working as the Bucket List Family together. So thanks, guys. All right, any questions? Yeah.
So when your life changed, when you made so much money and you guys are pretty well known, how do you stay grounded when you have that setback out?
Great question. When money comes into your life, how do you stay grounded?
there was an experience that happened during Scan. We moved to Silicon Valley. We moved to San Francisco. Garrett's investors were out there. And early on, we learned a really valuable lesson. Garrett's hero, his tech hero, his like life hero was a guy named Jack Dorsey. He founded Twitter and Square. He's also a designer, and Garrett's a designer. So him being like a designer tech founder was like the epitome of success. And Garrett had the opportunity one day in San Francisco to go and watch a Giants game in the box, in like a big box with Jack Dorsey. Just
In a box suite. It wasn't just a big box.
it was a box suite, yeah. And he got to sit next to him, and I was so excited to hear how it went afterwards. I was like, "You met your hero. Like, how was it?" And Garrett said that all he wanted to do was talk to Jack and hear, you know, tell me about your family, tell me about your life, tell me what you do for fun, like tell me how, like what makes you tick. And what made him tick was work. He didn't, you know, and to each their own. Like I'm sure Jack Dorsey's super happy with his life, but Garrett realized at that time he didn't have a family, he didn't have kids, he didn't have health, he didn't have hobbies, he wasn't playing, you know. So Garrett realized like quickly, oh, like that's actually not the way I want to live my life, you know. So Garrett, again, you'll notice the trend here. Like we've moved a lot of places for Garrett soccer. So we moved to San Francisco. Garrett dropped out. Came back to BYU, played soccer some more, dropped out again, moved to BYU Hawaii to play some more soccer. Anyway, there have been a lot of really successful entrepreneurs, even student entrepreneurs. But I'll pat Garrett on the back because he has seen a lot of success while being a great soccer player, a great husband, a great father. So him staying grounded with family and friends and faith and health is everything that matters. Like you can be as wealthy or successful or famous as possible, but if you don't have friends, family, community, faith, literally nothing matters. And I'm glad we learned that lesson on, and it's continued over the last few years, especially as we've grown into more of the public eye, to always just be grounded and know what really truly matters.
It was my co-founder Kirk and I. We had this opportunity to sit down, and we both we made the same amount of money at the same time. We were about the same age, so we're the only two people in the world that could like have this conversation and like fully understand what we were going through. And we made this list together called like "Be more rich than a poor man," and it was in our words like, what do we need to do to make sure a poor man isn't more wealthy than us? Because we have money, but if we have a broken marriage and a poor man has a strong marriage, he's more wealthy than we are. So what are the things we needed to do? And it was all the basics that you would know, being like spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, having a strong relationship with your wife, your kids, your family. Like we made those check boxes and made sure like we stick to these because we have no excuse because we have money, you know, like don't let any of these surpass us. Great question. Any other questions? Yeah.
With the entrepreneurs in mind, they like to not be able to see you. How do you guys burn? And then it's common fighting.
How do you avoid burnout?
Avoid burnout with the entrepreneurial spirit that is going. I want to know your answer because
No, I burn out 100%. I'm out.
what would be yours for me? Like, how do I as an entrepreneur not burn out?
I don't know. I think Garrett's what really brings him the energy and the fire is the creation of things. And so as long as he continues to create and is passionate about it, then he continues to like put all of his effort there. So he's always thinking of new projects. His brain never ever turns off, which has been a tricky thing being married to an entrepreneur. So whoever y'all marry, make sure they're down with it because it's really tough being married to an entrepreneur, especially.
Not that tough.
It's tough.
For me, it really is like, as long as I have my freedom and I'm able to create, I think I can do this the rest of my life. And I have the energy of like 1,000 humans. But the moment you put like that shackles on my heart, I was like tired during my days at Snapchat. I usually never feel that like sensation of tiredness. And like while I was at Snapchat, it was really tough. And so I can like feel it. It's somewhere there in my body. And I tell Jess all the time, like, hey, while I've got this, like, we should take advantage of it and make good money and keep working hard and achieving our goals. because I can feel it's somewhere inside me. And when I'm done, I'm going to really retire hard.
So a lot of states they have brilliant ideas and good ventures that they want to create, but a lot of them express struggles with how to raise capital. And you mentioned, for example, that you raise capital with like app. What are some ideas for us as students when we get out of here and don't have the visa?
Oh, great question. So if you have an idea and you're wanting to raise capital, first of thing I would say, like one step before raising the capital, is make yourself the builder. Don't be the idea person, be the person who can actually like create the thing or build the thing. As far as you can take that, like when I had to team up with my co-founders, their name are Kirk and Ben, because I was able to go with them and say, I have an idea for an app and I already prototyped it. Like they could see my code was janky, but they could see I put in the effort and I at least knew what I was talking about. So they wanted to team up with me. And then when we went to investors and asked for millions of dollars, it wasn't like, hey, we have a great idea, but we need money. It was, we are the builders. We have built this thing. We would like your money, but we don't need it. That's what the investor wants to hear. This thing we've built is doing really well, and we want to just put more fuel to the fire. That's why we need your money, not because we live and die on your money. And then from that point on, it just becomes a whole networking thing. It's literally just dating, where you get in front of as many investors as possible. Because the beautiful thing about raising money is all the money is the same. So you just know how much money you need. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And you also don't need to impress 100 investors. You just need to impress the right investors. So it's just a numbers game. Yeah.
So when do you know when's the next step to expand? Because you had the social media and it's doing really good. Then you did the studios and expand into that. And then I think the email that sent out talked about the hotel chain. So when do you know when's the next, to step up on the next?
I think there's at least in our world, there's two different ways to level up. One is just I can't stop thinking of new ideas and ventures and things that I want to try. And that to me is just the joy of life and the opportunity to create. I think is a very truly divine thing. But then there's also level up hey, I'm going to take my business and build it into this big corporation. A few times I've made the mistake of trying to grow my business into a bigger business, more employees. And I've realized the hard way that more employees mean I need to become more of a manager. And again, that's more like a shackle of taking away my freedom, and hated that. So basically what we're stuck in is I want to create as successful as businesses as possible, but I can't be the leader that grows it. If it ever does that, that's when I need to bow out or just switch things. But we found a pretty happy place for us in our lives of a team, of a really crack team of 10 or so. And that's not just because that's how many are on a soccer field, but it's manageable, it's small, we're agile, it feels like a startup. It's my favorite stage of business, and we just kind of live there in our happy place. Yeah.
What is your do you have a current business that you're running extensively for now? Or is it just about those?
So the Bucket List family is literally just our family and our social media. And then we created a company called the Bucket List Studios. And the goal with that is to create, I'd say it this way. The goal with that is to kind of take the life that we've been enjoying and give it to other families we've created an app to empower other families to travel more. We're creating a cartoon based on our family travels that will hopefully inspire young people and other families to travel more. And then we create merch travel backpacks, travel gear, apparel, stuff like that. Again, to empower more families to go create memories and an adventure together.
That's cool. Are you just doing that, or are you still building up a bunch of different companies and then kind of sell them once they get to the point where someone else manages them?
Most of anything we're doing right now is within the umbrella of Bucket List. There's a few other ventures and ideas we're trying, but they all live under this umbrella of the Bucket List family and travel. Yeah.
What would you recommend to people starting on social media, the best tools you have to succeed?
Great question. To somebody who's starting out social media, my number one thing personally is start for a reason that is not money or fame or followers. Find what makes you tick that's not those, and really know that well, because followers and money might come, it might not. And it's going to be too, when the times get hard, and they always do, it's going to be too tempting to quit. if that's why you're doing it. But if you're doing it for us, I just mentioned I love to journal. I was just creating family home videos. And if people subscribed and liked and it made us money, wonderful. If it didn't, I was going to continue to do it anyways because I love journaling my family's memories. So just knowing your like internal why. Yeah.
How did the monetization work with the bucket list family that you guys started to travel? And kind of second to that, how did you avoid feeling like you were doing it just for the camera or just for social media as you traveled?
Yeah, when we started the Bucket List Family, it was in 2015, long before influencers and creators was even a thing. It was the mommy blogger era. I think Garrett kind of had the foresight to see, I think this is where social media is going. So yes, like first and foremost, it was always a family journal, but we still were putting it out there for the whole world to see. We had sold all of our things, which we didn't own a home. We sold our cars and clothes and furniture. We made about $40,000 to travel. That was going to get us about 4 months of travel. And by the time that money was going out, our social media kind of started to grow. And by grow, I mean we had 10,000 followers on Instagram. And then we had gotten in a little bit of press, People and Us Weekly and the Today Show, and that took us up to like 25. So all of a sudden we were kind of on the map and we started to reach out to brands and hotels and airlines, and we weren't getting paid, but we were being able to do stuff for trade.
They were either like discounting or at least like hosting us.
So I would say we traveled for probably about a year for free, right? And then I would say once we got, and again, these numbers are different nowadays, we got to 100,000 followers, and that's when we started to make money. And people would pay us, brands would come in and pay us to promote their, products and whatever that was. And I told the story earlier today, but it reminds me of your second question. Our very first brand deal we ever did was with, I think it was Dasani sparkling water. And we don't drink carbonated anything. We don't drink it, but we were like, oh my gosh, it's $650 for a post. Heck yeah, let's do it. But brands actually legally cannot tell you what to say. It's illegal. But this brand had said, you have to say in your caption, take a break for bubbles. Never in my life would I ever take a break for bubbles. But we took this can and we had to empty it out because you can't fly with a can. Traveled all the way to Korea, pulled it out, this like janky, crushed up Dasani can.
Filled it up with regular tap
Filled it
water.
up, and like pretended to drink it, whatever.
We sold out.
We sold out
We feel bad about
so hard. And it was that like after that moment that I was like,
Never again.
never again. I will say on the flip side, Garrett sold his company. We have money. Like we didn't have to have that paycheck. And I understand a lot of creators are out there like they,
Paycheck.
sometimes you got to sell out. But we were lucky enough that like we never had, like from that moment on, like we've never had to like promote something or whatever, a destination that we weren't like actually.
And
How do you feel like, you're traveling around the world and having to almost like perform the camera you're post? Did you guys ever feel that sort of pressure on that side?
early on, yes. And I would say this is because there's the saying like do it for the gram. It has a negative connotation, but it's also kind of like awesome. Like people live much more exciting lives if they're trying to like impress social media or whatever. And that's kind of a positive thing to get out there and live a more impressive life. But we learned pretty early on, because I remember when we first started, we were trying to reach this like perfect postcard-esque photo, because that's what performed best on social media. There was an account called Beautiful Destinations, and that to me was like making it. And I tried, and I just wasn't a good enough photographer or videographer, so we just weren't doing well. And then we were running late for a flight in Thailand, and we get on the plane, and we were all just like sweaty head to toe, and it was a really like cool memory. So I take a selfie, share it, and it performed 10 times better than anything else. And I'm like, guys, this is a very garbage photo. We're just sweating on this airplane. But it was in that moment that I learned like people really love authenticity and the story and the experience, and that changed everything else from there on. So when we go to a place, there's no like pre-production or script. It's let's go enjoy this place. It's my challenge as a father to capture it like any father would on family vacation, wanting to make family home videos. and then make it impressive enough that hopefully people watch it and brands appreciate it and all the above.
I think having kids too, like you're not going to get your 2-year-old to perform. So they kind of ground you. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to like put on a happy
Can't
face
force it.
because it's just it's just mayhem.
I will say though that kind of reminded me of an important part to this entire story, and kind of goes back to like the moral of like where your values and your mindset is. When we sold the company and had enough money to travel the world, like why did we even do the YouTube channel or influencer or whatever? Like we had plenty of money, like why didn't we just travel and go on like an ultimate vacation? There's no better way for me to explain it than like, I know how my mind works, and I know when I'm at my best and when I'm at my worst. When I feel like I'm rich and I can rest, I'm at my worst. And I didn't want to feel that way. So me and Jessica agreed that we would do this. We would put that money from the acquisition aside. We would do that yard sale for $40,000, and that became our new savings account. The acquisition money in our minds did not exist so that I could be at my best. I'm at my best when I feel poor and I need to hustle and work hard. So let me just live that way. Let's put that money aside in investments and start over. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of, is because we'll get, people trolling all the time that don't truly know our story and say, yeah, you can travel and do all this, but it's just because you sold your company. And I don't respond to people like that. But in my mind, I know, if you only knew, we started over. We sold everything and we started from zero and went and built the Bucket List family. Something I'm super proud of, knowing like how it came about.
Also, by the way, Garrett G doesn't own a wallet. Like he doesn't know how much money we have. He like by the millions he's off. Like he has no idea. So I do all the finance stuff, and he had a co-founder with Scan that handled all the money. Like he thrives. Like money doesn't motivate him whatsoever, and it's just interesting to like see an entrepreneur who like isn't, motivated whatsoever.
But it's truly just knowing like how my mind works, when I'm most happy and when I'm the most hardworking. Because I think if I did know how much, I would be tempted to just go surf. Go back and play some more soccer at BYU. Yes.
But even more about this aspect about the business, when, like, how do you rent that volume along with it? How does that? How presented and what correct sets so hard, and like, where do you see yourself long versus business partner?
Yeah, I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and I always planned on doing that. My background is in advertising. I wanted to do product placement in movies, and somehow I now just do it in my own life, so it really came into play. Garrett and I, when we were first married, he would design websites and I would code them out. So my background was in online web tech as well. So it was a very natural fit when he started, creating these YouTube videos, and I had the marketing background. Our skills were really good together. And so as soon as, Garrett's making all these videos, but I'm planning everything on the flights, where we're going, who we're staying with. I'm reaching out to all the companies, all the brands, all the hotels. I'm managing everything. I'm learning how to negotiate and do contracts. Garrett is 100% creative and I am 100% business. And not saying I'm good at business, but that's just kind of what I've had to default to.
I'll also say this, like I'll give Jessica her props on that. She runs the business side of the Bucket List family, but she's always, even when I was doing my iPhone app, she's always very, very involved. I think there's certain relationships in like couples and families that do things differently, and like, they keep it very separate, and maybe like the wife or the husband doesn't know what the spouse is doing at work. Jessica and I have always been very like in each other's business in the best way. And Jessica could always tell you exactly like what's going on at work, what's going on with the business, everything.
But it was a weird adjustment, because when I quit my job to have my oldest daughter, Dorothy, I had a side hustle e-commerce site. I thought I was going to do that and just have my little thing going on. And then as soon as I had my daughter, I was like, oh no, like the last thing I want to do when I have 2 hours to myself is get on a computer and work. So honestly, I didn't think I would go back to work. And then when this evolved, I found myself a working mom, and I love it. It wasn't what I anticipated, but I really love it. And we've been in a great situation. to be able to tag team things. And, you know, I can still go in and get a workout in and he'll take the kids. Like we do a lot of like switching with roles and responsibilities so that we can each have our time to work, to edit, to be with the kids, to exercise, and like maintain some boundaries.
And so I would say this. I think we're due on time. We're so grateful to have been here. And the last thing I would want to leave with you is this, that like I said at the very beginning, I really do believe, and I'm so grateful. Like I feel like I live the most awesome life, and I want everyone to feel that much or better. And a big part of me hopes like you look at this story, you look at me, and you see like my many faults or how talented I'm not or how simple I am, and realize like how amazing you are, how talented you are, how gifted, and how much like potential and opportunity you have to just think big. Like, what is your ideal life? For me, it's right now, it's the bucket list family. Because when I left the world of like iPhone apps and tech, I knew one thing. I didn't want to work that much away from my family ever again. So when we created the bucket list family, it was my like ingenious way of turning my work into spending time with my family. My job now is to create memories with my kids. It does not get better than that. That is the best. I figured I cracked the code on life. I did it. And I feel like I'm the most successful human on the planet. And I'm here to tell you, like, this is the stage in life. This is the scenario. This is the amazing school where you can think as big as you absolutely want to. And it's up to you if you want to do it. So thank you.